In
Sure.
recent hearings for Brian Kohlberger, we heard Ray bring up the Stingray device. You've done quite a bit of research on stingrays. Could you please just tell my audience what a stingray device is and what they're used for?
Well, the word stingray is actually a generic term for a cell site simulator. And there's other terms for this product, this piece of equipment, a hailstorm. They have all different kind of names, and uh, basically what it does is it mimics a cell phone tower. So your cell phone attaches to that before it will attach to the authentic cell phone tower. So what police can do is they can, um, or law enforcement, what they can do is they can locate a person. And that's what Ray had said. But there's also um, somewhat of a flaw in this thing, this piece of equipment, that it can deny 911 calls. And I'm not really familiar with how that does it, but it has been in many published reports that I have in my film that this has happened. It has happened at uh, um, the some of the Floyd protest. It happened at that in Oregon where they had the pipeline protest. Uh, the the issue is a lot of times. Well, there's a lot of issues. Um, a lot of times the law enforcement uses this without a warrant, and there are published reports where they'll bring this information in, and the judge will kick it out and say you didn't have a warrant. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Um, how this started, this from what I have researched, this all came out of 9/11. There's multiple people that say that this happens, but uh, a lot of times law enforcement, I mean, they when they get this piece of equipment, they sign a non-disclosure agreement, and the non-disclosure agreement is, I mean, it's like bulletproof. You can't tell the attorneys, you can't tell the judge, you can't tell anybody that you're using this. And I was really surprised that Ray mentioned it because maybe he's not under the non-disclosure agreement anymore. But that was the first time that anyone said that a cell site simulator was being used when he testified in court. I was actually went out on the limb um, with my film, and so I speculated that it was in use. But he mentioned it. He didn't mention it that he didn't testify that they used it the way I'm saying they used it. He said that he thought that they were using it in a van, and he didn't realize why they were using it when they had eyes on them. And I believe it was stationary and possibly in the house across the street from the blurred tree. So I'm speculating. That's my premise. So, oh.
When you're saying that, it brought up something that I'm not going to be asking you about, which is very important, is that we're looking at fixed locations right now, but these stingrays can be portable from what I've learned, and they can be attached to drones. You mentioned a van, they can be in vehicles. You also mentioned that these are kind of off subject. I haven't brought this up to you, but I heard you mention once that these are actually pretty commonly used in DC. Did you mention?
Yeah, there is an issue in DC. Well, there's other governments that have these, and um, there was speculation that the Israelis were um, using it to track cell phones in DC. Um, the Israelis seem like they have, um, um, some of the best technology out there right now. There's um, there's a product called Pegasus that is might be actually make all these stingrays obsolete, because they work where they'll get into your phone. install malware into your phone and be able to be able to look into your phone, your contact list, your emails, turn the microphone on, do everything. And they think that and other governments have it beside the Israelis. So yeah, it's Pegasus. It's called Pegasus.
And don't the Stingrays have some sort of capability as well to do that malware? I think I read that.
Yeah, they can. From what I read, they can do that. I think it's a little harder to do that, but they can do that. They can drain your battery. They can install malware. They can um, turn on the microphone. So our cell phones are basically little spies in our pocket. Yeah, it's. I mean, Edward Snowden basically said this, a couple of years ago, and I just watched a great series on Frontline, the United States of Secrets, and it's on YouTube. It's a great series, and it goes through a lot of this, and it's most of all this stuff is open source. I didn't get any secret information from anybody, so it's just a matter of doing like a deep dive.
Same here. Same here. I mean, there has been a couple of good articles written. I want to say there was one I read that you had noted in Spokane. What's it called? The Spokane, Washington newspaper or something.
Right.
So based on your research, and we were just touching base on this, the term confidential informant, which we've heard a lot in the recent hearings, and we've all speculated on what they're talking about. But based on your research, the term confidential informant is typically associated with these devices called stingrays. Isn't that so? And
it can be. They have used that before. They said we had a confidential source, and we're not telling you. We're not telling anybody who it is, and it was actually Stingray. The problem is, the way I understand it, for for the defendant to have a good defense, he has to be able uh, to look at his accuser and be able to see who the accuser is, and that's part of the Fourth Amendment. So when they say it's a confidential informant and we're not going to tell you that, and if they use this without getting a warrant, that it should be inadmissible in court. Now we'll see what happens, coming, because there are. I mean, Ann Taylor keeps saying we're going to, we have a lot of issues about some of this information. I mean, even anything in the house, I would think would be inadmissible. Really, I mean, the house could have been, and that judge on TV had said that the whole crime scene has been compromised. Anybody could have walked in there in 8 hours and done anything. So I think Ann Taylor is going to try to get basically anything in the house just removed from evidence. I mean, that's what I would do if I was a defense attorney, because I think she has good grounds. 8 hours, there were people in there that called their friends first. They walked all around, and so we'll have to see if my speculation is right on that. So, mute. You're muted.
I was just saying, sorry, Michael.
That's okay.
But, I don't know. I just was saying that we all have so many unanswered questions about that 8-hour time gap, and just thank you for answering that about the confidential informant, because I thought that was fascinating that they literally, that's how your contract, when you sign to use a Stingray, you sign an NDA, and if you need to bring up this evidence in court, it has to be categorized as a confidential informant.
Right. So, yeah. Well, it's also when if you get some information from the Special Operations Division of the DEA, that's also they also put that on you, that you can't tell anybody, and I think that's what might have happened when they pulled over the accused twice. That was very strange because the FBI said they had nothing to do with it. And then it came out that it was a drug interdiction stop in, I believe it was in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you had a chance to look over what the Special Operations Division, what they say and what they tell you not to do, but that was brought up a few years ago. That a slide was brought up from the Guardian, and I used that in my latest film. So they basically say you can't tell the judge where you got this information. You can't tell the prosecutor. You can't tell the special, the any of the attorneys. It's crazy that they're allowed to do this. I mean, I don't think it's fair, but they do it.
What I think is crazy is it's a private company making the government or the local government sign an NDA that they can't talk to them, so they're not liable. And I just don't understand how I don't know how it all works. I might be missing something, but
I think it was top secret at one time. It was a very secret piece of equipment that they didn't want to get out. But I mean, it's all over the internet right now. I mean, there's many people that years ago have put out pieces about it. So,
well, and then so you touched base on this one too. We were just talking about the 911 calls,
right?
And so something you said regarding the Stingray devices in that video, and just a moment ago, you were talking about, and this really stuck with me, and I think it sticks with everyone who watches this, is that they're notorious for disrupting and interfering with 911 calls. And there were so many 911 anomalies. And so my question for you is, would you tell us a little bit more about how the Stingray interacts with a 911 call?
Well, I'm not an engineer, so we might have to get Cy Ray on here to talk about that if he's willing to. But in published reports, it has said multiple times that when they grab a hold of your cell phone, when they lock in on it, these Stingrays, the cell site simulators, for some reason, it won't let 911 calls. It disrupts 911 calls. It won't let it through. It also disrupts text messages. And as this one fellow said from security researchers, it will change the number where the text message came from. And I'm speculating that it might also block text messages and hold them for a certain time. Have you ever got a text message that's late? It comes like, a couple hours late or a day late. I've had that happen to me. But that might explain why Jack D didn't go over to the house. Now, from what I understand is Jack D did get those text messages, and he turned his phone over to the Moscow Police Department, and they cloned it and gave the phone back to him. But I don't know if the numbers were misconstrued. So, I mean, he might have seen these texts come through, seen the numbers, and said, "Oh, I don't, I don't know who it is. I'm not going to even open it." So there's a question there that has to be answered. But they can, like I had mentioned, there's numerous published reports that, and there's also there's a suit, and I don't remember the name of the lawsuit, but there was a lady who actually sued the government because she said her 911 call didn't go through because of a Stingray. They had surveillance on her house or a house in that neighborhood, and she wasn't able to contact 911. So there's a few people and published reports that say that this does happen, and I would be really curious to ask Cy Ray if he knows anything about that. I think he would be the person to ask.
Well, you're talking to the right crowd. We'll get it back to Ray for you. Right, live chat.
Sounds good.
That actually, it just I just want to speculate on a couple things really quick. So if the
Okay.
911 call was interrupted, it could be it could explain a number of things if it was
Right.
this. Like for instance, we have Kaylee texting, like you mentioned,
Hmm.
at right before 3 a.m. in the morning. What if that text message came through something that intercepts it and it didn't look like it was from her number? It
Right.
might have been ignored. It might have been thought of as spam or junk, or it might not have even gone through.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then there's another thing, which is I have, I'll just show it really quickly so you know what I'm talking about. But I have this letter from Steve Gonzalez that was sent to attorney Andrew Myers, and this is a copy of it. But the last sentence here, it says, Kaylee's last call to Jack was at 2:56, after which her phone appeared to go offline.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that up because I don't know what all this means, but I know that
Yeah.
I see that anomaly.
There was one fellow on TikTok who called the FBI and recorded when he called the FBI and claimed that the University of Idaho website went down in that time period. So that's another. I mean, there's so many freaky things or spooky things that happened at that time. It's just it's mind-boggling, really, when you look at it. All the, the kids on the band field and all the other things that were going on. I mean, it's just there's a lot of loose ends, and the police, they Moscow police wanted everyone's help, and when they got people's help, they didn't tell anybody anything, and so the speculation has gone wild on this case.
Oh yeah.
It's
Without
like, yeah.
I mean, and then there's like it even brings up a few other anomalies I can think of too. Like we've always wondered, and again, we're all just speculating here. We
Right.
don't know, but and also trigger warnings. If you just tuned in, we are a true crime show talking about a crime scene. But it always baffled me why in each room where there was a pair of people, there wasn't that moment to hit 911 or tell Surrey to call 911 or something like that. Could that have been done and been dropped? And I mean, and then the other thing is the questions about the roommates too, texting what they were able to text or not. There was a huge delay. Did this play some sort of role in that? I don't know.
This is a weird thing that I just found out, and I'm reading a book about. Um, I should show it. It's called Among the Bros, and this is about fraternities on the East Coast, and what they do. And it seems like the fraternities um, have a pretty serious drug problem. They're finding that on in Pullman, that one officer um, told about how he was using confidential informants, and that's in my film. But one thing that passes a lot of people, and I thought was very interesting, is they found a pill press in a fraternity in Pullman. He didn't mention the fraternity, but a lot of people don't. I don't know if you know what a pill press is, but what they do is it's a pretty big piece of equipment, and what they do is they get powdered fentanyl or other drugs, and they press their own pills to look like authentic prescription pills, and this has led to overdoses. So this guy is saying this happened on the East Coast, and that one officer in Pullman mentioned how he uses confidential informants, and he found a pill press in a fraternity. So I think we have to look at this uh, a little more. That the fraternities are there. I mean, there's drugs all around this case, and people don't want to look at it that these kids were involved. Um, they, it's a hard look, but I think if you don't look at it, you're not doing them justice either, and you're not doing the accused justice. There's one other thing that that came up that I found very interesting is, and I think Steve Goncalves says about that in that letter about the bank accounts. Now, there's no reason for that I can see is multiple, like 10 bank accounts, and not only on the victims but other people they were looking at. So there is this thing that people have been getting involved in. It's called smurfing, or um, money mule. And basically, what the drug traffickers have a problem with is they make a lot of cash, right? And what are they going to do with all this cash? You can only put $9,500 in the bank cash without tipping off the bank, and the bank tips off the Internal Revenue Service and the DA. So you have to make under $10,000 cash deposits. So what they do is they, for a small amount, they just deposit this cash in multiple bank accounts. Now, I don't know if these kids did that, but that's how the drug um, traffickers get their money back to that. They basically launder their money. And so,
Yeah. When you're telling me all that, it reminded me of that Netflix show, The Ozarks. Like,
oh,
have you seen it? They
so
like
I said parts of it.
of the show is like how to
Yeah,
launder money.
yeah.
But and I'll give you a copy of that letter too. I'll email that to you.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be
Can
great.
take a closer look, because Steve does go into detail about each of those bank accounts, and I had a lot of questions too before I read that letter. But I'll give you a copy so you can see it for yourself.
Yeah, but he only talks about 3 or 4, right? Didn't they have 10 bank accounts each?
We can read it real quick. I think he talked about all of them. Here, let me bring it up. And it's the first paragraph here. I'll read it to you. Oops, there. Kaylee had a bank account set up with, excuse me. Kaylee had a bank account set up for her when she was a child, complete with her own debit card, a practice we follow with all of our children. She was also listed as an authorized user on our Amex card to help her build her credit score. Recently, she purchased a new vehicle, likely coming with its own bank account. So it's like lines of credit. When they say bank account, you know, she also purchased another car years ago, which had a loan, which she paid off. So there's another early. And let me finish the sentence correctly. She paid off a few years early. That was done through a local credit union that also came with the bank account. Prior to this, okay, so what do we have there? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess you're right, like 4. Prior to this, we had been working to set up Kaylee's retirement account. So that could be right there. I mean,
Right.
that could be like 3 to 5, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's working on retirement accounts, which would likely be reflected in her account history. Given this, it wouldn't surprise me if she had more financial services. So, I mean, if I think about, like, if I was thinking about that age, the other thing I would add is there are a few, like, I mean, I had a Macy's card when I was her age. Like, I wonder, you know.
Yeah, if they're considering that as bank accounts. Well, I hope so. I hope, you know, the other alternative is not good, because it can, you know, it can take a hit on their reputation if they were doing something. But when you're that age, people are young and dumb, and you know they might have been got involved in something they thought was, you know, very clean. Just, oh, you just put this money in the bank and you get $500, and you know that's that. So it could have been just smurfing that, or there, you know, they had this other thing in Mexico.
But in your experience on Google Maps, have you ever seen so many blurred locations in such a small area?
It seems like that is kind of like the outer. It's very, very suspicious. I actually found another one, another blurred area. But you know, after the crime, they have blurred more things. They blurred a house that some people had said was Emmett Bailey's house, that is not far away. But you can go in Google Maps, it has different dates. So you can go back different dates and see when it was, um, when certain things were blurred, or like when the trees were removed. And it's the same area, like the Queen King Road intersection. You can look at, it'll say later dates, and you can go back and see when it was all overgrown. And well, now they kind of blurred out all the houses, but in most areas you can see that. The very curious one is the water tower, the Idaho water tower. I don't think you were going to ask me about that
Yeah,
later.
it was.
Okay, all right, I'll wait.
All right. Well, you know what? Actually, I feel like this is one of the best questions I have for you. But I definitely,
Okay.
let's talk about the water tower really quick, because let me see, which question was that? Oh yeah. Okay, so could you please tell my audience what you found? Oh, wait, that's not the right one. I'm sorry. Many people have speculated which cameras might have caught suspect vehicle number one, as mentioned in the PCA. I really liked your theory about possible camera placement, particularly because Ann Taylor has mentioned the same location during hearings. So could you please speculate to my audience your thoughts about possible camera location?
Well, I think there was a camera, the pole camera at the King Queen intersection. There was one at Linda Lane, uh, on in the apartments. Um, if you look at my one film, you'll see me drive through the whole complex, and that will give you an idea of how the complex is set up. The complex is very uh, crowded. It must be a horror story in the snow, because somebody did not figure this place out right. It looks like, um, you just you go around. There's only one entrance and exit for the complex. That's at the Taylor King Road. Yeah, that's the only way you can get in or out. So it almost looks like to me that whoever was driving around, they said that was pulling back and forth, back and going around, pulling into the parking lot, might have been confused with the address, because the address is very confusing. Um, so um, they claim in the affidavit that the that they can see the car pull in to the parking lot in front of 1122 King Road house. Well, there's no camera that would show that, because other than the ones that they're not claiming are up. I mean, there's only two cameras that they claim right now. It's the one on the house on the side, and there's the Linda Lane. So how did they know that this car pulled into the parking lot? The only way they could know that is if they had a camera in the water tower, and because there is an area by the water tower that is blurred. And I actually got that from Crime Circus. He was the one that put that up, and I had missed that, but he put that up. And if you go to that area and spin around and look, and this is what I think they're pointing to right now in this shot. If you go to that area and spin around, it's a direct shot of 1122 King Road. You look right in the front door. And before they did the tree removal, it was totally overgrown, totally obscured. Once they did the tree removal, you'll see that it looks right into it. It's very, very suspect.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't know why I never thought about the water tower. But it's even more interesting that I'll have to go back and see exactly how AT references that in the hearing. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really fascinating when I heard you say that. And take this down and pause it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So could you explain to my audience when you, this is also something I found really interesting. I heard you saying, and I want to definitely take it to my audience, but we all remember the photograph of the sneakers that were hanging on the power lines when we first learned about the crime at 1122 King Road. You actually tried to take a photograph of those sneakers when you went to Moscow. Could you please tell my audience what you found when you went to that location?
Well, I wanted to photograph the house, and I had waited and waited, and it came to like in November, and there was rumors that they were going to tear the house down. So I did some work. I wanted to photograph Timber Gulch in Eastern Oregon, and I didn't want to get in this area if it snowed, because I know I would have been, you know, uh, stranded in the middle of nowhere. So I went in like early November, and I wanted to see if the pole camera was up there, if I could see something. And the uh, there was something on the net. Somebody posted something, and I cannot find it now. Um, was that they were going to tighten the wires? They had posted that the wires were sagging, and they were going to tighten the wires. So I knew, that was it. So I had gone to the area. The sneakers were gone. This was November 7th, 2023, um, and I took a shot of the area where I believe that there was something that the pole camera or the Stingray was. And I did find two cables that were unattached. That's the only thing I found, because I believe whoever went there and uh, took these sagging wires, took the pole cam and the Stingray out, because they had already talked about knocking the house down. So I think they wanted to get that out of there. Speculation, but there were two cables, and that's in my film, where you can see I did red circles around it where the cables are just hanging, um, just loosely, like. So it could have been maybe somebody didn't get cable TV anymore, or it could have been that there was a pole camera there and they took it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few great comments. I don't know if we want to get to a couple of them.
Okay.
Kind of just about some of the things that we were talking about, but I started as we were going along. So we were talking about when we were talking about the Stingrays could possibly be portable. I just started this one because Mike was saying, like, in law enforcement cars, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, most of them, I believe, are. I think it's unusual that they're stationary. Um, um, Cy Ray was talking about the ones that he was familiar with, and he was saying that these are vans that cost over $1 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're all equivalent. Um, but I don't know if he actually knew that it was a van, or how they were using the Stingray. My premise is they were using a Stingray, and it was a stationary Stingray, or cell site simulator, and they had this house under surveillance. That's my belief. There is uh, a couple other possibilities. Um, the um, uh, this is kind of out there, but the cartels are now using jammers, and some people, we hear in California, they're jamming, some thieves are jamming Wi-Fi when they break into houses. Um, so it's something that you can actually get over Amazon. It's this transmitter that has multiple antennas, and I've seen pictures of some of the people in cartels, and they all have these on their vest, and it has like four or eight antennas. So that's kind of on the, that's pretty, that's out on the limb, but it is something to think about. So, um, but it seems like if they were in trouble, why didn't they call 911? That it doesn't make sense. Um, and even for the surviving roommates, why didn't they call 911? There is a thing going on with the fraternities, where they get their members not to call 911 first. They want to get their, uh, whoever, the manager of the fraternity, I don't know what you call him, but to talk to him first before you do anything. So these fraternities have to be looked into. They In this book, they went as far as when they hazed one of their pledges, and they really treat their pledges pretty badly. They One kid mentioned that he was waterboarded. Yeah, so it's not like kiddie stuff anymore. So it's something to look into.
Yeah. Oh, that's so horrific. Like literally a torture device of government.
Yeah, yeah.
Heather says, often our government do not obtain warrants to use this type of thing, like the NSA. And I think that's kind of the alluding to the parallel construction that you were talking about. And
Right.
so, and I thought this was, oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something about that, Michael? I didn't mean to.
Well, if you play the other film, it talks about that. So maybe once you play the one with the doors, because that gets into it, and it'll take you. That film goes all the way around the complex, and you'll see how the tower kind of looks right down at the house. So
Well, I'll keep a star on this one and we'll circle back to this after the video, though. Good question.
okay,
And I really thought that this was an interesting a question too by Too Fast. He says, if you are in an area, or just a statement, I should say, if you are in an area where you normally get 4 or 5G and you have 2G, you may be connected to a cell site stimulator. It forces your phone to downgrade the signal because 2G is less secure than 4 or 5G. And that kind of alludes to what you were saying about the 5G making it obsolete, why they might be using these Pegasus systems.
yeah, he's. I agree. That has also come out like that, and it's wild what it can do. I mean, it's really crazy what it can do, and it's not legal unless you have a warrant, and they do it anyway, and then won't tell anybody. So it's not good. There's actually committees in Washington that are looking into this. And it's every time somebody asks, like the former FBI director, or they have the present FBI director, and they say, tell us about parallel construction. Then they're going like, what? What? I'm not familiar with that term. So yeah, they don't want to talk about it. So
I think that in terms of what you're just saying, I think I'm also going to say we have the next one I had was let me unstart this. These have to do with obtaining the warrant too. We had Mike was talking about they don't have to disclose and when, and then Heather starts talking about a congressional hearing. So I'll save these 3 for afterwards. And then just kind of like you were talking about the fraternities on WSU. Oh, I'm sorry. Miranda, I actually had contacted her on X because she had sent me this really interesting article when we were talking about your videos in a different live stream. Mm-hmm. And so she's bringing this up right now about Project Sea Glass. And have you heard of this?
Yeah. They went around trying to to track. They put these they put equipment in like Uber cars, and they tried to track all these like cell sites that shouldn't be there, and they mapped it all up. I tried to contact them, but I didn't get any response. So, and that has been. Um, uh, that has happened a lot when I try to contact them about the films, or different people, different agencies. I get nothing back. So
You just
but,
keep knocking on those doors, right?
yeah.
Beginning, but WSU Mom Kim left one in here that I thought was interesting. What does he know about Finsta, Snap, and Yik Yak? Oh, I don't know. I think is that a question for Michael? But do you know anything about? You were talking about the encrypted apps, and you were saying this is what the kids are using now. They're not texting back and forth; they're using encrypted messages. And
Yeah. This is something that, from what I understand, um, that these that they're encrypted. If you open them, they disappear once you open them. I believe that's on Snapchat, and never to be seen again. So even the police can't get a hold of them. So that's as far as I know. But the kids tend to use them, and I would be curious to know if they were actually using texting each other, especially Dylan and Bethany, if they were not using Snapchat. Because matter of fact, WSU mom said that that's how it went out. It went out in a, I believe that's what she said. It went out in a group chat early on, like in 10 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah,
I'm looking around my look
but
at in the neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah, well, the college is very into technology, and so was Brian. I mean, that he had proposition that he wanted to go work for them, and um, we don't know if they accepted him or not. So he was dealing with the police department along with Kaylee. So that there could be something there. There's also um, in um, in Washington State University. There's also a lab that they run, complex social interaction lab, I believe it was, and what they do is they take body cam footage, which usually after the police come back, they just put it in a holster to get recharged, and after so many days, it's erased. Well, they take all these body cams and they categorize the interaction of how the officer deals with the public, and they claim um, that Brian didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't have access to it, but it's right across the way from his office. I mean, it's just you walk across the plaza and it's right there. And I believe the fellow who signed Brian up that said that he was one of the candidates for this internship was the director of that program. So he might have gotten access to that. So those videos, they claim that they didn't take Moscow PD videos, their body cam, but I'm not sure about that. They might have had access to them, but they might have also had access to the cameras in the area too. The closed circuit, because apparently uh, the campus has closed circuit TV all over the place. So, and that wouldn't surprise me. So,
no, not at all. And see, WSU Mom Kim was responding to you,
mhm.
and she said, "So let's just say Brian did it. He could have deleted everything after the fact."
um, well, yeah, I guess he could have. I mean, he's a smart guy. We'll have to see about the phone if he was in that. that park where he said he was. I mean, when I was in Timber Gulch, my I lost my cell service, but I still had GPS. So as long as you have open sky, you can get GPS, but the cell service you have to be in the vicinity. So this is what might have happened where they said he turned his phone off. He might have been at the park and not connecting to anything. But if Cy Ray can pull out GPS that he was there, that's going to be a big problem for the prosecution. Now they might claim, oh, he left his phone there and he went back and he did his deed, but I I'm having problems with one person who is a vegan who can't fillet fish and can't eat meat, doing a brutal slaying of four people by himself. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And and they still haven't gotten a connection. He wasn't stalking them. They said that there was no stalking. That was all made up. So um, we'll have to see. I mean, we're kind of looking at this blindly because those other things are, we don't know. If Cy Ray comes out with that, and Cy Ray seems like he's pretty upstanding. I mean, and this first time he ever testified for the defense. So um, if he comes out and saying everything he sees is exculpatory, um, they got a pretty good case. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I brought this up right as you're talking. Just Twiz was just backing up what you're saying. So the GPS works in the park, but the cell does not. And then
Mhm.
right after that, Heather had made a comment that was kind of relevant to that too, where she says, "Oh no, Twiz made it. 100%. They couldn't know if he turned his phone off or not. It's interesting when they
Mhm.
have the digital footprint of the phone."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're making a lot of the assumptions that, as far as the cell phone, I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with saying, "Oh, we had 12 pings, but the one ping we know he wasn't in that area." I mean, so that makes all of that irrelevant. That they all that is irrelevant if it pinged like all the other ones that said he was there, but we know the one time it pinged that he's there. It makes that whole evidence bogus. I mean, it's not accurate. And I think Cy Ray is just going to nail that on him. The thing about
So just kind of back to this question that Heather had said, often our government doesn't obtain warrants to use this type of thing, the NSA.
um, that's true. That's yeah, they use it, and the idea with the parallel construction is so they'll get a tip and they'll stop somebody, and they'll say, oh well, he had a broken tail light or he was speeding or something else, and then they'll find maybe drug paraphernalia or something like that, and then uh, they'll have probable cause to search it. So it is a way that they use it, but uh, people say it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, and they're trying to stop it. And there are congressional hearings on this with the FBI. Apparently, the FBI has been doing this like mad. I mean, they really and there's hearings and certain senators that want to pull back on this. But every time I have two videos that I watched where two FBI directors were questioned about this, and they played really dumb, like what's parallel construction? I mean, I've never heard of it before either. I mean, it's somewhat like a euphemism. Basically, they're withholding evidence, and you should be able to confront your accuser under the Fourth Amendment. And some people had said that when they uh, uh, put this with civil forfeiture, it's really bad. So they get a tip, they come in and they'll seize cash or other property that they say is drug related, and then you have to fight and get a lawyer to get it back if you're innocent. It's and I think that's what the government, these Senate hearings have to do. That's one of the reasons why they're doing it. Plus, it's an invasion of privacy. The stingrays don't just uh, hit one person; they hit they latch on to multiple people in the area. So that's a concern with the civil liberties people. They say, if you're going after one person, that's one thing, but if you hit all of these people, and that's the way it's designed to take a whole group in a certain area and latch onto them. So,
Like a dragnet, right?
right? Yeah.
And then, I mean, as you were talking, you kind of, some of the questions that I had starred, you sort of answered them too, such as they can't even disclose when and used, and which is no, it looks like that NDA, they're not allowed to say anything. And then just what you were saying before, that if you watch some congressional hearings, you'll find people talking about the use of them in Congress.
Right, right. Yeah, they're not allowed to. They'll make up a story. They'll make up a story. If they get an NSA tip, um, this guy is going to move drugs. Um, they'll make up a story to stop the person. They'll say, "Oh, you were speeding," or like in um, Kohlberger's case, you were driving too close to the cars in front of you. Twice they stopped him, and the FBI had said that they didn't have anything to do with that. That was a drug interdiction agency that told those police to stop him. And so I don't know if they got their wires crossed there or what happened, which I mean, which can happen. But they stopped him twice, and I believe that's where they got their information. That he was driving too close. Um, that's it's very subjective. And twice within 15 minutes. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So.
And it's funny you said that, because the next one I had starred, which you wouldn't have known, is Twiz says the police know it was targeted for a reason. They just, oh, he's talking about the house. I thought you were talking about BK.
Yeah. That the house has a history, even without the victims in there. So some of the owners have some. I mean, that whole area has some sketchy people in it. And it's. They have one guy that's a sex offender, and then another guy who has some felonies on him, drug related. Um, it's somewhat of a sketchy area there. So, and that's the ones we know about. So, um, when they said that, but that did raise a lot of suspicion in me. Like what, and when the news reporters asked them, well, how do you know it's targeted? And they said, well, we can't tell you. You're going to have to trust us. And which, that doesn't fly, and the whole thing with, okay, when the alert went out, they said, uh, stay in place. And then an hour after that or so, oh, don't worry, you can leave, you can do what you want. Everything's normal, and they didn't have a suspect. My belief is I don't think they had Brian in their view, but I think they were in shock, and it goes to my belief that something was done that kind of shocked the senses of them, and that's why they said that. And they said, well, these can't be anybody in the area. Something out of the norm happened. I mean, out of the norm before, but over and above that, and that's something that I'm looking into now. So.
I know I can't even think of what would make them say that. I can't. I mean, I've come up with some ideas, but was there something left at the crime scene? You know, what was it? Was it that
Yeah.
diagram that they found in evidence? Was that of the house? Like, what was it? Did somebody
Yeah.
know him?
I think there was a sign. There was some sign.
And then the next one I had starred was Mikey says, excuse to have these from the Patriot Act or the Big Brother Act.
A lot of it came out of the Patriot Act after Bush and Cheney. You know, they were in power. They were doing all kinds of stuff. You know, they were waterboarding detainees. You know, multiple times, and waterboarding is considered a war crime, and we actually executed Japanese soldiers that did that to our soldiers during the war. So they were doing war crimes, and we know. And the thing about waterboarding is it doesn't leave any marks. It's just purely psychological. That and if you ever were in that position where you thought you were going to drown, I mean, it's a horrible position to be in. So, but you could come out of that and look like you just came out of the shower.
Yeah.
And when they had video of that, they apparently destroyed all the videos. And they weren't supposed to, but they did. So, you know, the government can get away with a lot of things that we would be in jail for.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah.
And then I just want to, right after that, Mikey gifted a membership. Thank you for the blessing, Mikey.
Yeah.
And I thought this,
oh, great.
Hold on. I just had WMSU Mom Kim's up there and then it came down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and then Toes said, yeah, the NSA hasn't needed a warrant since the Patriot Act, I think he meant to say.
Yeah, yeah.
My gosh, we have 44 new comments. There's probably more down here. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of these are just statements. Okay, so WSU Mom Kim says, I could only deposit $5,000 a day in my kids' accounts, but had to get money orders in $500 increments. That's a pain in the ass.
Wow.
For the post office to pay their tuition. What?
That's interesting. Is that an ATM or that's the first time I heard it was that amount?
But you're not even saying cash. You're just saying you can't deposit more than $500 a day in your kids' account. That's
Well, she's saying 5,000.
5,000 a day in your kids' account, like a money transfer or something.
They get suspicious if you bring in too much cash. They want to, you know, cash is a problem for retailers. I mean, it's good and it's bad. You know, if you generate a lot of cash, what do you do with it? You know, then you got to secure it. You know, these retailers that, you know, they make maybe $10,000. So they got to get it to the bank. So then you have to get a courier, you know, or a Binks truck, or you're going to try to go to the bank with $10,000. I mean, we have had incidences where over in Oakland where they'll follow a restaurateur to the bank, and they'll rob her, you know, going in or coming out, or, you know, rob him or her. So this is it's tricky carrying cash. Yeah. You got to be careful.
And then on a few things I will add to what you're saying. So Heather just wrote, they literally trace every single dollar. Even today, the Secret Service does this. And they make it easier now with all the features on the newer money too. Right.
And apparently with your passport too, they can get a lot of information. So it's, you know, the Secret Service, I don't know how much, not good.
So this is where you can find Michael after the show, and please go subscribe to him and support him. Like I said, we only showed half of the videos in this series, so there's so much content for you to go. And if you thought these were entertaining, the other two are just as captivating as these 2 videos. So I highly recommend going over and watching the series. And you can also, and I'll link these all below in the bio.